The Atlantic world. This is a map that shows you the transatlantic slave trade as well as other things that are going on. There's a lot of things goods and services being exchanged um, along this route. The British Empire was based on mercantilism. They sought self-sufficiency and favorable balance of trade. So colonies existed solely to benefit the mother country. And so that is going to be the viewpoint that the British will have of the American colonies, is that they are to grow some of the items that are going to be needed for the British. They're also going to be a recipient of trade items. And so that will allow them to have a favorable balance of trade. What you see in this map is the triangular trade. New England will be supplying rum to Africa. Africa will then supply slaves to the West Indies. The West Indies will then supply molasses and slaves to North America, which will then again go back to the next group. So you can see in this map that there's actually more things that are being traded constantly back and forth. It seemed like a model idea. British textiles, rum, goods were going to Africa. Sugar, tobacco, lumber, cotton items were going to Britain. The concept of salutary neglect is that the colonies are pretty much going to be left alone by the British for a long time. From 1713 to 1763, they are going to enable America to trade without much regulation. And so they will start trading with whoever they want. As the economy grows, Americans will begin to resist what the British are going to put into place, which are going to be called the navigation laws. And an illegal American trade will also grow to circumvent these. The navigation laws, as you see here, there's hundreds of them passed, but this is just a couple of them that are passed to try to put a little control over the American colonies, but still it's not to the same extent that it's going to happen after 1763 when we get to the eve of the American Revolution, which we'll talk about. Here are some additional ones. They're seeking to reduce colonial production and exportations that would have been in competition with the British by doing this. There's certain items like tobacco that couldn't go to any foreign market except England, despite the fact that they would get higher prices elsewhere. And agriculture remains vital to the middle and southern colonies and the Chesapeake specifically. With the Wool Act, there are female spinners and weavers at home that produce a lot of the cloth that's available. There's lots of smaller industries that will be impacted. Manufacturing will be second in importance to farming in the colonies. Lumbering, shipbuilding, fishing, mining will become the most important by the 18th century. The John Peter Zenger trial becomes a symbol for free press. There are news and pamphlets will be allowed to be exchanged with the ideal of voicing dissent as a weapon against a corrupt government. And this will be important because it will end up being part of our First Amendment freedom of the press as we move on. But John Peter Zenger was a German immigrant who was a New York printer, and in 1733 he was accused of libel. Libel is criticizing the government at that time, which is a different definition than we have today. But he was accusing the government of rigging elections and the governor and other crimes and labeled him an idiot. And he actually was found, he was put on trial simply because he printed the articles. He didn't write the article himself, but he printed the article. The Back then, libel was when you published something opposing the government. It didn't matter whether it was true or not. And he never denied printing it. The jury was packed with individuals on the governor's payroll. And the wife of John Peter Zenger, Anna, kept the presses rolling while he was on trial. And reports got to the jury replaced. And a trial began with a new attorney, most famous lawyer of the time, Andrew Hamilton, no relation to to Alexander Hamilton. He admitted that Zenger had printed the charges, but demanded that the prosecution prove that the charge was false. The judge ordered a guilty verdict if the jury believed he had printed the stories, but in less than 10 minutes, they said he was not guilty. It was an important step in liberty. As the American Revolution approached, freedom would be even more vital now that papers could be honest. And that is the end of the Atlantic world.